Hi, what's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Road Lamb Live. I am here tonight with my hero, Satsuki Shibuya. Satsuki, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for the invitation, Ro. I'm really excited about tonight.
Absolutely, I'm like stoked. When I asked you to be on the show, I was like, I don't even think she's gonna say yes. So I'm gonna ask her. I'm gonna ask her, and she said yes, so she's here.
I
Satsuki
am.
is an artist, as you can see on her bio. She says a spiritual channel. I can't wait to touch on that. But before we do that, I like to start off with one question, and that is, what is inspiring you right now? What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to that's keeping that creative spark going?
Oh man. So right now I'm actually getting ready to launch a integrative spiritual school. And so in order to get that going, I've been reading a lot of material about human design. Actually, it's been kind of on my radar for a while. Also, I've been doing a lot of medical medium type of studies. So I really want to integrate like health, wellness, but also kind of coming from an angle of um, you know reality, like
Mm,
how can people apply it like in real life. Spiritual sounds very frou-frou a lot of times out there, but I'm very interested in like the human experience and how we can bring that down to earth, and so that we can really apply it and see the magic happening through our own actions. So I think those two books are really inspiring me right now. And also my guilty pleasure right now has been Korean rom-com.
okay, okay.
Yeah, so I think like it kind of balances things out. Like I get really serious, but I also love things to kind of just keep me. I really love human connection. I think that's what it comes down to. It's like I love
Yeah,
things that connect me with people and
yeah,
remind me of like the beauty of human connection.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So, what's your human design profile?
So I am a manifesting generator.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
So
I'm a projector.
okay.
Yeah.
My daughter is a projector, so I'm
Okay.
learning about that too. So that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Make sure she getting her naps in. Make sure she getting that rest. You know what I'm saying?
It makes a lot of sense now. Why I'm like I'm go 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 all the time. So I'm like what? But now I know. So
Right, right, right.
yeah, that's
That's great.
cool.
Right now, what's inspiring me, I would say. So yesterday, the NBA basketball season started, so I'm loving that. I'm also I've been reading a lot. I always read a lot, but this past year, I've just been running through books like history books, fantasy books. Like it's been good to do so much reading. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then the other thing I mentioned this last week is I got this crazy idea that I was going to write a new story every day for the last 100 days of the year.
Whoa.
And I don't know what I was thinking about, but today was the 32nd day, and so I've done every day so far, and
Wow.
it's been tough. The stories have not all been great, but it's
Mm,
just a cool exercise to,
mm.
just push myself to constantly like find ideas and just create for the fun of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
So yeah, so that's been cool. That's been cool. Um, so yeah, with that, I guess we can just go ahead and jump in. Right. This is the first question I like to ask people. How do you define creativity?
Mm. I think creativity is kind of like an innate thing that we all have within us.
Yeah.
It's not defined by how it comes out of us. It can be anything from the typical like poetry, art, music, but
Yeah.
it can even be like how we speak to someone. It can be how we like bring a meal together. It can be how we bring community together. That's all creative. And so I feel like it's the essence of what drives us to want to do something, the
Mm,
thing that like wants makes us want to like get up in the morning where we feel really inspired to
yeah.
make something happen in this world. I feel like that is all part of creativity, and that's kind of what has always been like the core of my practice.
Mm,
So I don't like to think of it in terms of like what it is, but like how it makes us feel
yeah.
and how it connects to like who we truly are.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I guess almost a follow up on that. How has motherhood impacted your approach to creativity?
Oh, it's impacted a lot more than I expected. I think um, one, just like the logistical aspects, like you're very strapped for time. you don't have the luxury of like being able to create when it comes. It's like you have to kind of go when you have the time.
Right.
So I think that time restraint, it actually, in a lot of ways for myself, kind of pushes the creative energy like through in a way that I've never experienced before. So for example, I don't know if you can see, like even my art style has changed because I have to really figure out like, okay, in that very key moment that I have time, how can I get the essence of what I want to create and what I feel
Yeah.
onto something that is visual and that connects with me still. It's not the process has completely changed.
Wow.
And also, I think just the way that I think about creativity has changed in a sense of being a mother, you're like birthing life into this world.
Yeah.
And that in itself is, I think, a huge creation.
Mhm.
But that whole process of like carrying the child, birthing the child, raising the child, I feel like each stage, it really helps to, or doesn't help. I think it kind of puts you in a position where you really have to examine yourself because here's this little life form looking at you for
Right.
cues for like anything, and so it magnifies all the things that are important to you, but
Yeah.
also the things that you really want to kind of share with
Yeah.
another being. um, for me, because creativity is such a big part of who I am, I always think about like, how is it reflecting onto her? And
Mm.
what is it that I want to communicate with her through like this creative energy that I have? So I feel
Yeah.
like those are kind of some things that have really changed a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me as a father, I think about that as well, just from the standpoint of, like you said, like they're taking cues from me. They're watching me. I make music, I rap a little bit. And so sometimes, I'll be riding in the car and I'll have a track on and I'm just sort of playing, figuring it out. And they'll be in the car with me. And I remember one time, one of my kids asked me, like, are you writing a song? And I'm like, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And
Yeah,
later
yeah.
that day, I also wrote a comic book. Later that day, my son came up to me with like a little book. And he was like, look, Daddy, I wrote a book. And so I think it's really interesting to see them respond to seeing me operating my creativity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So let me ask you this. Um, how do you nurture creativity in your children?
I think the biggest thing for me is just being really open to the way that my daughter is experiencing her creative expressions,
Yeah.
and being and holding space for that, and being really responsive to like the things that she shares with me. So trying to keep things really open ended in the sense of like I try not to say, oh, it looks like this, unless
Mm,
she says it, or
right.
I won't say like, oh, I try not to label things, but I want to like kind of talk to her more in terms of like process,
Right.
and experience that moment with her.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
for example, when she comes into the studio with me, she'll take crayons and whatnot and she'll start scribbling and she's going at it, and I'm watching her and I'm like, oh wow, it's so free. And and then I kind of like, it's almost like like when you're playing some jazz and you're just kind of vibing off each other. I'm like taking my crayon, I'm doing this and she's doing this, we're
Yeah.
just like vibing, and I'm like, oh, this is so great, I love it. It's like improv, but like
Yeah.
we're like having like this little jam session. And
Yeah.
then afterwards I'll be like, oh, so what do you think of this? And it's just, I think that the dialogue, keeping things open, keeping things flowing, and just really appreciating that creativity that she shares, I hope will allow her to keep that open mindedness towards it so that she doesn't have to worry about labeling that creative. Because I think that's what really held me back a long time
Yeah.
for being able to create in a way that resonates with me, is that I was so caught up in like labels and containers and it has to be a certain way. And
Right.
so I'm hoping that as children we don't have those filters, we just are. So I'm hoping that I can continue to kind of foster that
Yeah.
so that she doesn't have to worry about it being a certain way, but just like pure creative
Right.
expression.
Right.
Yeah, so I
Right.
think I'm really mindful of that. It's hard though, because as adults we're so conditioned to like see things and
Yeah.
want to like tell them something or do something. So yeah, I'm just like, okay, don't say anything. Like,
Right.
don't say anything.
Right. Right. And I also think, just to piggyback off of that, it's been difficult for me because my creativity for so long has been my escape. And I have to figure out how to invite
uh,
somebody else into my creativity. I'm a writer, and so I do a lot of my
yeah.
things by myself. And so my
Mm.
son wants to write, and so he'll try to show me things, and I'm like, I have to remember, like, yo, yeah, invite him in, bring him in, and I'm still working on this. I'm still working on this. We're
I
gonna
feel you.
we're gonna get there.
And I feel you, like that's the same with me too, with my art, like because it's such a solo thing that you're really focusing on. So my daughter wants to do with me. Sometimes it's tough because I'm in my flow. I kind of need my space. She really wants to come, and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay. It's like you just have to, yeah, you have to open
find
it
that
up.
balance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. So,
Mm.
switching gears a little bit, I saw in one of your interviews you talked about your synesthesia. Is that how you pronounce that? Synesthesia?
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about that, what it is, and just how that uh, feels for you, I guess?
Yeah, so I would say my experience with it, I think like now it's becoming more and more apparent to me that more than synesthesia, it's like associations that's happening in my brain,
Okay.
where for example if I hear like a certain sound I'll see a certain color,
Right,
or
right,
if
right.
I hear like a certain, if I see a certain number, usually for me though it's not so much shapes but it's colors. It tends to be colors that I see. So for example if I'm hearing like a musical piece, I see like all these like different colors coming and seeing like almost like a painting happening in front of my eyes.
Wow.
Not that I can recreate it, because I think it happens faster than I can catch up physically.
Right.
But it is very like a cerebral experience for me.
Yeah.
So because of that reason, I feel that my art tends to be captured in that way, where I'll hear even like it doesn't even have to be music. It could be someone's like vocal. Um, it's almost like vibrational tone
Wow.
has a certain color attached to it. And for me, because I channel, that leads to like other soul readings and things like that. But if I'm purely keeping it within the synesthesia realm, then it's definitely kind of like a relation to something visual.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
yeah, that tends to be more color versus shapes.
Yeah. That's
Mm.
so, I mean, that's so interesting. What's your earliest memory of having that experience? Like, what was that like for you?
Mm, I mean, I feel like it's been like this for as long as I can remember. I just didn't know how to put it into words.
Right.
But my earliest memories are like, for example, if my mom and her friends are having conversations,
Mm.
and let's say a woman within the group was having kind of a, I don't want to say like negative, but some type of like anger, or so within these emotions coming out of her mouth, I can see colors like
Wow.
literally coming out of or surrounding her, so, and I think it has a lot to do with like the language that she's using, or even like the tone of her voice was related to a certain visual for me.
Right.
I could never understand like what that meant, but it's more like I can see the conversation more than hear the conversation, and
Yeah.
that's kind of how I was sensing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's, I'm like really interested in this. In the interview that I saw or I read, I feel like you put a real emphasis on calling it a gift. And I thought that was really interesting. But I wonder what's been the most difficult part of learning how to operate with that gift?
I think the most difficult part is because it's not something that everyone experiences. It's not something that you can see with the physical eye.
Yeah.
That and I can't filter it out. So what I see, what I sense, it's not like it's an on-off switch.
Hmm.
So sometimes it can be very overwhelming. It can kind of take over the senses. I get overloaded quite easily, so it's not easy for me to be in like conversations with a lot of people, a lot of noise, and so even though I do love people, I love community, I have to be really careful and mindful about like how, let's say, for example, how often I go out to meet people, or like if there's like events where it's very loud, noisy, social events, I have to be really mindful of like how long I'm going to be there before I burn out, things like
Yeah.
that. So I feel like those are the more difficult parts of it, like the physical limitations, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's been the easiest or the best part of it?
The best part is I think that it helps me to understand other people in a depth that I might not be otherwise able to understand. Because a lot of people, including myself, when we talk to others, we say certain words. Um, it's hard for us to like be able to fully describe like what we're experiencing. But because I have that sense, it helps me to kind of give a fuller picture of the other individual I'm like connecting with, and I
Yeah.
feel like it helps me to be able to understand them and talk to them or say or even be present in a way that I hope is very respectful and also very connecting,
Yeah.
with the other person, like so that they know that they're being seen for who they are.
Right. Man, that's great. So I think this is a big question. It's probably gonna be like 3 parts. But one of the things, so somebody asked you, what accomplishment are you most proud of? And the answer that you gave was, you said, I don't know if proud is the right word to describe the feeling. And I don't even know if you remember this, but I wonder what word would you use rather than proud to describe how you feel about your accomplishments?
Expansive. Yeah, because I think when I think of the word proud, it feels more like like uh just a part of me like puffing up. It's almost like visually speaking, I visualize someone like puffing up their chest or kind of like I'm really proud, which there are moments of that, of course. But when I think of my own accomplishments, it feels more like I'm expanding out, like out of my body, out of like that current state of being into like the next dimension of myself.
Wow.
And so the accomplishments, it feels more whole body versus just one part of me,
Yeah.
So I think that's why the proud didn't quite feel like it fit into what I was experiencing anytime I would hit a certain milestone. And I can only say this now looking back. I don't know if I would sense it back then that
Right.
it was an expansive experience. But looking back, I think each time it happened, it's like boom, it's like okay, next, like boom, it's like next, and I'm like, letting go of certain layers.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
making me emotional. This is making me emotional. And so you went on to say that the thing that you would say was, you talked about your life purpose, and you talked about no matter what others say or do, because judgment seems to be second nature to us all. And earlier this month, you posted on Instagram. See, I've been doing a little research, but you posted on Instagram. It's almost like a poem, I guess. And you said, it's not what others say that matters. It's how you decide to live your life that creates meaning. And I just wonder, how have you felt judged or, looked at a certain way for your art or your creativity? Like, how have you experienced that?
Yeah, I think I feel like I've always had to prove myself throughout my whole life, whether it's because of my spiritual, sensings, whether it's because I'm an Asian woman, whether it's because I don't learn in a particular way. And so like if my school grades, in, I don't know, math class or something was not that great, then I have to prove that I'm like smart, or that my brain is like functioning in a different way. So I feel judgment has always been there, and um, I felt suppressed by it a lot growing up.
Yeah.
But I think the more and more I realize that is the other, it's not me.
Yeah.
And whether people judge me or not, it doesn't change anything about my decisions in my life.
Yeah.
Then that really started to help me understand, like, oh, okay, like I don't have to feel negative about other people judging me. That's not, I can't say it's okay, but it is what it is.
Right. It
But
is.
yeah, it is what it is. And but what can I do, to help better understand that? It's like, okay, I can understand where the people are coming from. That's something I could do. But the biggest part is, okay, so what can I do that'll make me not even have to like consider that. All I have to do is just focus on myself, because I think the biggest lesson I've learned from other people and what I've read is you can only live your own life. You're only responsible for your own life.
Yeah.
No one can live your life. You can't live anybody else's life.
Yeah.
So then if that's the case, then judgment doesn't matter. What other people say doesn't matter. What only matters is what you are responsible for, and
Yeah.
being very focused on that mission. Like, what is it I want to do with my life? What is it that makes meaning in my life? What brings happiness? Not just happiness, but that feeling of fulfillment.
That peace. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what is that? And I think staying focused on that, the judgment starts to kind of melt away.
Yeah. And I think also too, a lot of times that judgment says more about them than it does about me or my art or you and your art. You know what I'm saying? It's it's about them at the end of the day, at least from my perspective. Um, so, and I guess you touched on this a little bit, but just practically speaking, like, do you have any practical things that you do to help you to overcome, when you feel that judgment, or you feel, or even just to protect yourself and your art from that judgment that is inevitable?
I could think of two things like that really come to mind. One is I really keep asking myself, I keep tuning back into myself. Like if I start to feel like that, that heavy negative feeling, you start to compare, you start to feel very bad about yourself. I start asking myself, like, okay, is this me? Is
Yeah,
it them?
yeah,
Is it because of what I'm doing that's not making me happy? And is that why I'm starting to focus on the judgment and what other people are saying? Usually that is the case, which is really funny, is that I start to question myself because what I'm doing is not making me feel fulfilled. It's not lining up. So then I'm thinking, okay, so why am I doing it then? Is it because I have to financially support my family? All right, fine, then I'll do it.
yeah,
Even if it makes me feel like at the moment, like I'm not quite jiving with it, but it's like practically speaking, I have to do it. Okay, fine.
yeah,
But if it's something I can help, like, can I look at it from a different angle? It's like usually, yeah, I could look at it from a different angle. And so I think that those questioning myself, coming back to myself really helps a lot.
yeah,
And then I think the other part of it is um, when I feel a lot of judgment, I actually uh, this is something I've been putting into practice a lot, is I follow people that really inspire me as a person, not
mm,
because of what they're doing,
mm,
not because of who they claim to be, not because of how famous they are. I just want to follow people that I look at them and I'm like, damn, they have something good. Like you, Ro, for example. I found you, we connected, I looked at your stuff. I'm like, you know what this guy's doing, this is awesome. I love it. I think it's so cool. And so I'm more and more trying to align with people like that, whether they know me or not, doesn't matter. It's like, I want to follow you in your journey because you're inspiring me right now as a person. And what you're doing is secondary. It's something about their energy that's like very magnetic. And I think I actually tend to be drawn to people who are, I don't know, just like everyday people. It doesn't have to be like they don't have to be like famous.
yeah,
It's just, I mean, famous people, yeah, there are a lot of famous people that inspire me, but I don't know, is there something about everyday people that are doing their thing,
yeah,
showing up every single day is so inspiring for me. I love it. So I think that's another thing I try to do is like to get the judgment out. It's like trying to surround myself with good energy that I align with. And that seems to be helping a lot, actually.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um, so I guess shifting gears a little bit, can you talk a little bit about the school that you're launching or starting?
Yeah, I'd be love to. So it's been about 5 years in the making. I could first got the message to create like a community school, something in that realm. Super exciting, but at the same time, very overwhelming. I
Mm,
didn't have usually if it's like a message, it's very clear to me, but this one was very, how do I say, it's kind of foggy. I couldn't put like a visual to it. And so I'm like, you know what? It doesn't quite feel like it's the right timing. So I'm going to put it aside. So it continued over the years. It kept coming up. I kept revisiting it. I'm like, I still don't see how it's going to come together. So I would put it aside, work on other projects. So that kind of went on for about 5 years. And then earlier this year, around January, I was kind of revisiting, writing another book. But at the same time, that idea came up again about school or like community. And I thought, okay, let me explore this a little bit more. And I started to see more visually like what that would look like. But even then, I was like, you know what? I still am not getting it. I got to put it aside. And what I've learned over the years that timing is key, at least for me. I
yeah,
can't push it. I have to be 100% like, not 100% ready, but 100% visually prepared. I have to be
yeah.
able to see it
Want to
to
see it? Yeah,
execute.
yeah,
Yeah, I gotta see it. So I was like, I don't think it's quite there yet, like 80%. So then, and during the summer, one day, bam, it just came. I can see like it's gonna be a school. It's gonna, this is how many people it's gonna be. This is what it's gonna be about. And so finally, the pieces start to come together, and I realized I've been thinking about it so. Um, it was just too much stuff around it. I have to think about it more simply.
hmm,
And
hmm.
so the school is called a Shunka Shuto in Japanese. It literally means spring, summer, fall, winter.
Oh,
And but there's a very specific Japanese words where they use four characters, and the word itself just means seasons, but the meaning behind it is like things that are forever changing. It's like the human rhythm, the human life, and kind of like the universal understanding that nothing is permanent,
Mm,
that everything is forever continually evolving.
yeah.
So the school is going to be set up in seasons, for seasons starting in winter, and I will be working exclusively with 11 students. And what we're going to be doing is I channel all the students' energies that are in the class. I get one focus, one spiritual focus for these people. And we go in and we dive in deep into, okay, so this spiritual philosophy, like what is that? Two. And then we go into the second month. Okay, then let's explore and expand on this. How can we take this spiritual knowledge and apply it to the things in your life right now? Work, life, family, whatever it is that you want to apply more spirituality into. How can we bring that into your life? And let's experiment. What does that look like? So I'll give out homework, and we're going to be like dissecting things and making things uncomfortable and putting things together. And then so once we do that, and we'll have time to come back together and talk about the blockages, talk about things that we went through as a group. And then at the end, the third month, we start to really piece it together and like take the things that worked for us and like really apply it into the very essence of our everyday life that like we want to bring spirituality into.
Yeah.
So, for example, if manifestation of past lives is the focus of the group, then we're going to be talking about, okay, so let's say for you, if it's you, Ro, we're going to say, all right, you want to write this cartoon. How can we take this past life and manifest that into your current comic book so that it ties into your gifts, the things that you brought into this life? You know, what are the key elements of that? How can we tie that into your comic book so that people know that it's Ro that's writing this, the essence of Ro, not
Wow.
just like a story, but like you as a very unique individual. So I think that's kind of like the core of the school, and then we'll have like other things within it.
Yeah.
And then that class will be every season. So some students can stay on with me, other new students will come in, and we'll start again on a new journey and a new focus based upon the students. And so that's kind of the beginning of the school.
Wow. That sounds incredible.
I'm really excited.
I mean, that sounds great. So can you talk about what being a spiritual channel means?
Sure. So spiritual channel for me means that I'm able to tap into an individual's core spirit, core energy. And from there, I can tune into like their higher self. So for example, all of us, we are physical embodiments of our spirit,
Mhm.
which is connected to like a higher self or a higher consciousness.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I can tune into that. I can go beyond sometimes with some people, past lives. Some people I can see future lives, parallel lives. Some people it applies to those loved ones who have maybe passed away, people who are their guardian angels. So for me, channeling is very open-ended, where depending on the individual that I'm tuning into, it's almost like a radio station. Like everyone has their frequency. And so I tune into your frequency, and then whatever comes down, downloads, I share it in a way that it's almost like I'm translating a different language. So I share it in a way that I hope will connect with other people,
Yeah.
and then they can take that information and apply it to their life, like whatever it is that people usually come with questions. So I usually try to take that information and help to answer questions that they might have in their current life.
Yeah, yeah. That's incredible. That's incredible. So when I found you, I
Mm,
was in well, let's answer this question right here. Somebody just asked this question.
yeah.
Keandra, appreciate you for asking this question. She asked, how do you stay protected during this process?
Oh, so I think she's asking about the channeling, right?
Yes.
That's my guess. Okay, so during a channeling session, this is my understanding of it. Everybody does it differently, so I can't say this is the same for everybody. But anytime I go into a channeling session with someone, before I start, I have like my own prayer or like my own conscious like agreement with the universe. And within that agreement that I'm chanting quietly within myself before I enter into someone else, one of them is a prayer for a protection. so that the protection is, because we are opening up our channel, myself and my client, we're going to be connected during that time. It's a very vulnerable situation because we're so open that I
Right.
ask for protection for both parties so that there's nothing that interferes or comes in between us. And also, I make sure that after the channeling is done, that we clear ourselves, I clear each person so that we are for sure protected from any kind of negative energies or entities. And so far, it's been okay. So I think it's been working.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. Great question. Thank you. When I found you, I guess maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was going through. Oh, here she go. She says, "Love the agreement here. Thank you." Yep.
Thank you.
Um, when I found you, I was going through a complete deconstruction of my entire paradigm. I grew up Christian, and when I found you, I mean, your energy was just so. You became like a guiding light for me as I moved through this. Like, really, for me, it was very tumultuous. Like, I was losing friends, I lost my job, like everything was just falling apart. And so I was just looking for people to help me walk through this thing. And so I just wonder about you and your spiritual journey. I would imagine that there is a constant shifting and changing that you go through. And so I just wonder, how do you manage that and your relationships? People around you knowing that you're changing and all those type of things. Like, how do you manage that changing and have your relationships? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I went through the same thing. I mean, I can't say the same, but like a deconstruction, more like a falling out of my life. When the big shift, I think the big shift for me was when I realized that I couldn't live the life that I was living before, ignoring what I'm sensing, ignoring what I was experiencing internally, that
Yeah.
I couldn't pretend that it wasn't that anymore, just in order to fit in and be normal and for people to accept me in a way that they understood.
Right.
Once I accepted the fact that that normal is not going to be okay for me anymore, that's when things start to really fall apart. It's like people
Yeah.
start to think of me as like weird. What are you talking about?
Judgment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this person's like crazy.
Yeah.
But honestly, what was crazier for me was like, whoa, it's crazy that I didn't say this sooner because I feel so much better. Like, I
Right.
feel so much better admitting it. But at the same time, my outer world was just like falling apart because
Yeah.
it's like everything that I've kind of built up in order to be normal in the world was not.
Yeah.
So I think that was like the biggest moment. And then I fell ill, because I think I've been trying so hard to uphold this image for so long that my body just couldn't take it anymore. And so it almost felt like an inner part of me just snapped apart.
Yeah.
This like outer part of me that wanted to be normal, the inner part of me that wanted to be my true self just kind of like came apart.
Right.
And so I think through that process, what I've realized is that anytime I kind of go through this cycle of change, now I'm understanding that the most important thing is people are the people who align with you will stay. The
Mhm.
people where the journey has come to an end will part. And I have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
But what I can't be okay anymore with is not being truthful to myself.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's not only a disservice to myself, but it's to other people. And also it's hard to keep up with like a false self. It's hard to keep up that charade of like being my not self.
Right.
So, but I think the only thing I am really careful about is some people are just not ready to hear it. Some people are just not ready to accept it. And so for those people, when I sense their energies, I try to be really mindful of that. And so I actually wait for key words or key invitations for people to allow me to talk about my spiritual stance, I guess, or my spiritual self.
Yeah.
If they don't, I don't say anything about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's helped me to navigate kind of like the different types of relationships and the people that I have. Is I try to be really respectful of where the other person's at. I wasn't like this before. I couldn't hold myself back before. It's like I want to tell everybody,
Right.
and I'm like, okay, that causes a lot of chaos, and it's not fair for other people.
Yeah.
who are going to freak out about it. So I try to be really mindful and wait for the invitation. And actually, interesting enough, sometimes when I talk about art, my art, it's like naturally connected to my spirituality.
Yeah.
And so that's like such a nice gateway into it. And people are actually quite open once they start talking about that.
Right.
And so, and then again, I think the other part of it is trying to be non-judgmental about um, the changes that happen every time I cycle out. Is
Yeah.
like trying not to be judgmental about like my own reactions, how other people are reacting, how things are happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like it's just chaos, but I have to kind of sit and be like, okay, this has happened before.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen again.
Yeah.
And it's just I think it's just part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point you made just about waiting for that invitation and not feeling like you have to talk about it all the time. For me, coming from the Christian tradition, you come from the witnessing and the telling people about your faith type of thing. So coming out of that, I had the habit of wanting to have those debates and have those conversations. But then there's the insecurity as well of like not really being sure about where I am. And so I'm like, I'm figuring out what I believe by talking it out, which, like you said, creates this chaos and it creates this unnecessary like tension. You know what I mean? And like you said, I got to the place of just being able to say, okay, I don't have to talk about this all the time. Like I can wait and we can coexist. You can believe what you believe, I believe what I believe, and it's definitely a process though, for sure. So now we're going to move into the final segment of the show. I always ask these last 5 questions. And the first question is, what's one book? I call this segment The One. Okay. So what's one book you think everyone should read?
Oh man. Man, that's a hard one. Oh, what's the one book? Oh man. Okay, I don't know if this is going to be the right answer you're looking for. The one book that everybody should read is the one book that calls out to you that no one is suggesting you should read, but that you feel called to read.
I love it.
I think that's because that's what changed my life. I think in terms of like shifting into like my true self was finding that one book that called out to me that it's not like anybody recommended it. I just wanted to read it. And I think that's what really changed things.
Yeah. And I think that's so true. I just want to piggyback on that because I actually have, when I was going through my deconstruction, I had like a list of books that I just read and each one like built on them. And it was like a cool little pathway that I went down. So I really appreciate that answer because like you said, nobody recommended these books. I just found them and they were just perfect for me at the time.
I feel that.
That's a right answer. That is definitely a right answer.
Okay, good.
My next question would be, what's one word you would want your legacy described as?
Oh, man. Heart.
Heart.
Heart. Like, if there's one thing that people could remember me by, I want them to remember me in terms of how I connected to their heart center from my heart center. Yeah. Like that they felt that they were seen, whether I met them in person or not. If there was an opportunity for us to connect through my art or like my words that I share or something, I hope that they can remember that connection on that level. I think that would mean the most to me.
Yeah. Heart. Great. Man, that's great. If there's one piece of advice that you could give your younger self, what would it be?
Oh, man. I just thought of something. I don't know if I should say it. It's like, you might have to beat me out.
Nah, you be free. Be free.
Oh, man. I would tell my younger self, like, fuck it. meaning like, don't. I mean, I don't like to say the word don't, but it's like, don't worry about the little things.
Yeah.
Like, really, like, just fuck it. Like, do what you want to do because I only recently in my mid 30s started to really harness like this true self, and I'm still in the process. But I feel like if I could have just told myself like forget about what other people say. What is it that you want to do?
Yeah.
What is it that you want to say? What is it that you want to create? I feel like I could have gone here maybe faster. So, but
Yeah.
I say that word because it's it's um it's very direct. Like,
Mm.
fuck it. Because sometimes you can say stuff like, don't do that, don't think about that. That sounds very like, oh, but no, it's like, get to the point. Like,
Yeah.
fuck it, do it. It's just like,
Yeah.
don't worry about it, just do it. And I think that's what I would tell my younger self.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. No apologies necessary. What, if anything, is one thing that you would change about your creative journey?
I mean, not so much now, but I think in the more beginning stages of my creative journey, I was always questioning and apologizing about wanting to do so many different things that I couldn't just stick to one thing.
Mm.
And and I really had, like, I still do in a certain way, like imposter syndrome, because I don't think I'm, a like known for just one, like, oh, she's just known for like her art, or she's just known for like her writing. It's like I'm very like all over the place. So I feel like I don't regret it, but I wish that I could have harnessed that kind of multiple energy,
Yeah.
creative energy,
Mm-hmm.
um, instead of questioning it and being apologetic about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And that multiple energy, that's very Manjin, right? That's like,
Yes.
yeah, for sure. Okay.
Yeah. 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 It is. I only recently found that out too. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So what is, and I feel like you've touched on this, but I'm gonna ask the question anyway. What's one thing that you want everyone that sees or hears this to walk away with?
Well, I feel like when you first reached out to me or when we connected to do this this YouTube live, I felt like people would question. Even I get this a lot. How do you choose like where you're gonna, spend your time to do what?
Mm,
Interview where? Write about that. Everything's time. Time is energy. Time is life.
yeah.
So,
Wow.
so when I chose to say yes to this, for some people they might think like, why? You can be choosing to do art. You could be choosing to do something else.
Mm,
Um, but for me, I feel that this is purposeful in a sense of I felt like instantly like, oh yeah, I want to do it because I feel like what Ro is doing is awesome. I feel like the energy he puts out is really, really positive. I feel like he's really trying to change like the energy of the people that you're reaching. If I can be a part of that, I would be so honored.
mm,
And I feel that people who are watching this, I hope that they get that sense that, you know, we can connect with other people on so many levels. I don't have to know you, Ro, to be like, yeah, let's talk. We
mhm.
don't have to like be like, um, I don't know. It's like in this life, I feel like we're so caught up in like, oh, how much do I know that person? Oh, what is like their background? Or oh, like what have they done? Or it's like all this like stuff
Right.
surrounding it. It's like, no, I want to connect with people that I truly believe in, that I hope I can support anyway, that I feel very blessed to be around. And so, if anything, I hope that people who see this will have like not the courage, I guess, but like the insight and the trust in themselves to connect with those that like they really feel called to connect to intuitively, instinctively,
Mm,
and to just like step in that space and to be with people that like they want to spend time with.
yeah.
Yeah, because I think that that's really important. That I think we don't spend enough time doing that. Like we're so caught up in like the persona that we put out, or like the you know what I mean, the story.
Yeah.
And I think it's time that we start to break that down and like really start making those connections again with the people, not with just anybody, people that we choose
Yeah.
to spend time with. I think that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Thank you for those kind words. That was great. Do you have, we're going to wrap up now. We've been on probably about 45 minutes. Do you have anything that you want to plug, any links that you want to tell people about, any, whatever you want to send people to? This is your space.
Thank you so much, bro. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to anybody that's been watching and also anybody who will be watching subsequently after this. But thank you very much for your attention and just time spent with us. You can find me on my website, satsukishibuya.com. I'm also on Instagram, mostly on Instagram, Satsuki Shibuya, but you can also find me on YouTube, Facebook, same name, Satsuki Shibuya. Also, Shunka Shuto, the school, if you're interested to find out more about it, it'll be released this Saturday. So I'll be talking more about it this coming month. I'll be having some weekly Instagram lives where I'll come on, talk more about the school. So it'll be like a Q&A session. And then I'll have the website up as well so that people can go on and start learning more about it if you're interested in studying together. Also, Ro, I have one question for you.
Oh, yeah. What's up?
So I want to ask you, where you are at your journey right now, what made you feel like you wanted to connect today?
So where I am in my journey right now, I am in I'm in a rough spot right now. I'm in a rough spot of my journey. I think I feel like I'm constantly shifting. I'm constantly changing. I'm constantly evolving. And I think for me, at least, it feels like it puts pressure on the people around me. And so I think I'm sorry, I wasn't even prepared to answer a question.
Sorry, I asked you, I put you on the spot.
It's good. It's good. You just got me thinking now. I think I'm just I'm in a place of just, I guess, trying to get back to the basics, if you will. I've done, I guess, over the past like 5 or 6 years, like I said, like I started changing, I started deconstructing, and I feel like I always get to like a good place, and then something will shift and something will change. And so it's going back to, okay, how do we get through this part? You know what I'm saying? But all is well. It just, there are things that I know that in order for me to get through this, there's more growing, there's more letting go, there's more there's just more growth or change that I have to go through in order to get through where I'm at right now. And I wanted to connect today just because I don't think it's a coincidence that I wanted to connect with you today or in this season, because you were very, very instrumental in me surviving my first change. You know what I'm saying? And, just surrounded by people who had a certain belief system and looking for people who, because I just remember your bio, it said, it didn't say spiritual channel, it said spiritual thinker. And I just remember just being so drawn to that. And I actually hadn't seen you on Instagram in a really long time. It wasn't until like 3 months ago that I found your account again. And I was like, oh, she's right here. And I just follow you. I'm just like, man, like she's just amazing. And so I was like, I want to have a conversation with her. You know what I'm saying? And so I said, I'm going to invite her on the show. I didn't think you were going to say yes, but you did immediately. I'm so grateful. I appreciate that so much. And so I hope that answers the question.
Yes, I asked because, and if you don't mind me sharing real quick before we wrap up here,
for sure,
is that anytime I connect with someone in a very specific, conscious way, there's always a reason. I'm always curious about what that reason is, but also because what you're saying, if I can share, that your power in your season right now is all in your voice. How you say you're a writer, but right now in the season, the next shift, I feel like it's all gonna for me.
Hold on. You're breaking up a little bit, Satsuki. Hold on. I feel like I need to hear this. Okay, so we're having some technical difficulties. I guess we're gonna go ahead and get off the live right now. But yeah, I just appreciate Satsuki coming on. I appreciate everybody who stayed to watch this and kicked it with us tonight. Like Satsuki said, time is energy, time is life. I just want to let y'all know that I love y'all. I'm grateful for y'all being here, checking us out. Like this, subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody if this helped you, if you enjoyed it. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And check out all of Satsuki's links. They're all in the YouTube bio. So hit that link and check out her thing. She's doing amazing work. Like I said, she changed my life. I'm sure she could change your life. And she's back. You back?
Call my phone. Hello? Are you there? There we go.
Here.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. You good?
Okay, good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm good about that.
It's still breaking up a little bit. Hold on.
Okay. I was like, just kidding. I was just telling you.
Yeah. Oh man, I really need to hear this. I know I need to hear this. I appreciate you, Colby. Satsuki, I'm gonna circle back with you because it's still.
There you
go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's still breaking up a little bit though.
I was just saying like, oh no.
I need to hear this.
Can you at least hear my voice?
You're breaking up a little bit. You're breaking up. I'm gonna go ahead and end the live, but I'm gonna need to talk to you because I need to hear this. Even if we're not on the show, I need to hear this. All right, guys. Man, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here. Y'all be well. And I will talk with you soon. Love.